Alrighty, in this video we'll be going over the disassembly of the Mossberg 500 Cruiser Chainsaw Shotgun. Before we begin, I just want to make a couple points about the chainsaw configuration. This is not at all designed or intended to be a practical setup. For some reason, a lot of people on the internet seem to think that, oh, it's got a breeching style muzzle brake tip, that it must be designed for law enforcement breeching shotguns. Not at all. My store actually outfits both the regular and the breeching shotguns for local police departments, and this is not at all a conducive design for a breeching shotgun. First off, even a breeching shotgun is aimed. It's not designed to be fired from the hip. Also, breeching shotguns usually have very short barrel lengths. About 14 inches is usually the max. The reason is you don't need a 19-inch barrel when a breeching shotgun's effective range or operational range is going to be, just that long. Usually, the most common style is a slender forearm, standard shotgun forearm, and then an inline bird's head pistol grip. The next common style is a more angled pistol grip, similar to this one, along with a vertical pistol grip on the front, or some variation of those two. You will not see a pistol grip with this overhand shotgun style being used as a breeching shotgun because it actually gives poor leverage. It may not be readily apparent in the pictures. Of course, first thing we're going to do is we're going to check to make sure this is unloaded, which it is. But when you use the weapon, you may not notice, beforehand or using the action release bar, it's not that bad, it's not that stiff of an action. But if after checking to make sure the weapon's unloaded, you dry fire the weapon, the leverage you need to get because your hand is so far away from the axis of action that it actually takes quite a bit of effort to rack the slide. It's not very practical at all, but again, it wasn't designed to be. This is just Mossberg's attempt at capitalizing on the current zombie fad that is running through our industry right now. Alrighty, before actually disassembling the weapon, first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the barrel. To remove the barrel, we're going to unscrew the magazine cap at the front here. Simply set that aside. Next, we're going to open the action slightly. This will allow me to simply pull the barrel right out of the front of the shotgun. Go ahead and set the barrel aside for now. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the trigger group cross pin. So go ahead and clip the action of the shotgun all the way. Take a small tool. I'll be using a screwdriver bit. And now that the pistol grip is still on the shotgun right now, I actually have the receiver off the table so I won't end up beating into it. Give it a light tap, push through, and you should be able to remove the cross pin fairly easily. Take the cross pin, set her aside. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the pistol grip. The pistol grip uses a 1/4-inch bolt. Excuse me. The bolt is actually fairly well torqued from the factory, as you would want it to be. I've actually loosened it earlier beforehand with a vise, just for the purposes of this video. Go ahead and remove the bolt from the back of the shotgun here. It'll have 2 washers here. The crush washers are in order of smaller than larger, so just remember that when you put it back on. Otherwise, it won't do nearly as good of a job of preventing the bolt from ruining and damaging your pistol grip. Once you've taken the 1/4-inch bolt out, you can simply take the pistol grip off the back of the shotgun. Now, because we already removed the cross pin from the trigger group will rotate out, pivoting on the front here. And you can simply take the trigger group out and set it aside. There shouldn't be too much cleaning you need to do around here. Just wipe up around the hammer area. Don't mess with the trigger group unless you're extremely confident in what you're doing or you're an authorized repair individual. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the shell stop and shell interrupter. The shell stop and shell interrupter are easiest to take out here at the beginning of the disassembly, and they're also easiest to reinstall at the end of the reassembly, as you'll see in the next video. So on the right side, well, actually it may just drop out right here. Here is our shell interrupter. If for some reason it doesn't just drop out nicely like mine did right there, you can press it out through the receiver. There's that little hole there that corresponds to one of the posts on that interrupter, and you can just push her out. Next, use a small tool, and on the left-hand side of the receiver, you need to simply pry out the shell stop. This is the shell stop. It does not have a post on it, so like I said, you'll just need to use a small tool and pick that out. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the bolt plate. To do that, you need to compress the action, and you need to get it to the point where this plate here is in line with these cutouts here in the bottom of the receiver. You'll notice that the receiver has these extra cuts here for width. That lines up perfectly with this bolt plate. Once you get it to that point, you'll be able to just lift the bolt plate right out of the weapon. Set the bolt plate aside for now. Now you'll be able to take the forearm here and the action rails connected to it, slide it right off the front of the magazine tube. You won't need to clean up around here. You probably won't need to remove the action rails here for any reason. There'll be no reason to do that. You'll notice that there's a lot of slop here in the action rails. That's typical. Don't worry about that. It's actually important for reliable pump action shotgun design, but it's also the reason why there'll be a lot of slop in the grip. And you'll notice that the leverage of this chainsaw grip is actually reduced because of how loose a pump action shotgun has to be reliable. Go ahead and set that aside for now. Once you've done this, you can take the lifter, pull the lifter towards the magazine tube, and you'll be able to push the bolt right out of the front of the receiver here. On the bolt, the most important thing is you want to clean up here around the bolt face where the firing pin is. You can check for firing pin protrusion. The firing pin spring on this 500 is actually very firm, so you're going to need to use a hammer or a sharp edge to be able to make sure that the firing pin protrudes through the bolt face. You may want to wipe up here on the bottom. You may get a little bit of gunpowder kickback. Test the extractors here, make sure that they're both fairly firm, but do it give. Set that aside for now. To remove the lifter, simply pull up on the lifter so that it's out. You'll actually need the safety to be in the safe position to give you enough clearance to take the lifter out. Compress the two bars on the lifter here. That'll compress these pins here, and you'll be able to remove them from the corresponding cuts in the side of the receiver. The lifter shouldn't be too dirty. Just set that aside. If you'd like to, a lot of people clean the inside of the magazine tube. It's highly recommended. Just go ahead and take the magazine tube and the receiver, one in each hand firmly, and just simply unscrew the magazine tube. The magazine tube will come off the front end. You'll notice that the other end of the magazine tube has this little retaining cap. It's very easy to pry out with a flathead screwdriver, and you'll need to do that if you decide to add a magazine extension to your magazine tube. If you're not going to, don't take out that magazine tube. You'll bend it, deform it out of shape. It's made out of very flimsy, thin material, and so it won't do so well if you take it out, put it back in too many times. Magazine spring here. Mossberg has color-coded the end here so you know which one goes forward. If you can remember, the colored end goes towards the end of the magazine cap, and the follower will push out of the bottom of the receiver here. And now you have the bare receiver. If you'd like to, you can remove the ejector here by removing that screw. That's not necessary. You shouldn't need to do any cleaning underneath where that ejector is. Just use a Q-tip or whatever gun cleaner it is used to get around there. Same thing with the safety. If you'd really like to, you can remove the safety, but it's not recommended. You won't need to clean anything around there. And that is the disassembly of the Mossberg 500 Cruiser Chainsaw Shotgun.